Good morning, afternoon, and evening. Welcome back to the Liberal Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Bodio Kapula, and with me I have Kaylie Horowitz. And Andy Gibby Gibson.
Poor unfortunate souls.
I gotta be honest with y'all. We've been on a roll, and we're going food for two for topics that I have absolutely zero confidence in. I have no idea what I'm gonna say. I have no idea what's gonna come out of my
Don't worry,
mouth.
Mom says it's your turn with the Xbox next.
I'm sure that you'll subject us to some like critically acclaimed anime, and I'll just be like, ugh, I have to watch anime for my hobby. Ugh, wow, my life is so hard.
I mean, if we really want to change this to like a
Okay, but like, don't force me to watch 1,000 episodes of One Piece because
God.
like, I already sit down enough for work.
What if I
man.
make you watch 184?
All right, keep talking.
I'm not, because that'll become the topic.
Oh, good lord.
Kaylie, you look pensive. You look like you're thinking very hard. What's going on?
No thought, empty head. Only focus on weird micro sound that no one else in the room is paying attention to.
Which is fair because you're on spring break.
I guess I also blame the neurodivergence and possible anxiety depression combo.
Yikes.
Okay, but like, I was gonna venture into a fun like, woo, spring break, never forget spring break 2022.
Spring break's been good. I've had it a couple days in a row to just do nothing, which is a rare occasion in grad school. Except now I've got the back half of like, ooh, half of my classes decided to do midterms when we come back, so I've got to finish those before.
Wait, is that how college is now? Y'all do midterms when you come back from spring break?
My
That's
professors
gross.
have kind of gone, let's just show our projects when we come back from break. Get out
The
of here.
professors are dicks.
No, that's not how spring break is supposed to go. You are supposed to be somewhere where you are sunburnt on a beach, especially because you're ginger, and you are supposed to have a bit of a like novelty cup in your hand,
Mhm.
and you're supposed to have an ugly t-shirt and realize that a sandal has broken, and you're just
No.
going to have to
Ugh.
live with that or
No.
buy $5 shoes from the CVS. It's one or the other, man.
I
Like,
It's
mean-
funny because we went on spring break together several times and we had completely opposite spring break experiences.
I don't know.
It's the
Half of that
fantasy.
sounded like most of my spring breaks, but not all of it. Or at least
Okay.
not all every year, every trip.
You want to get real, buddy? Do you know
What?
why that didn't happen to us? Because we went to Florida, and I was like, ooh, Florida. And then where did Kaylie and her gaggle of theater children go to? A haunted swimming hole in the middle of nowhere that was full of ghosts
Literally a hole.
and scarier, full of Confederates. Kaylie,
Yeah.
11 people have died in the underground caves of that swimming hole. The place you took us to has a Wikipedia page because it was so dangerous.
And all that's in that Wikipedia page is about how people have died there.
To
Yeah.
be
That's
fair,
literally it.
They're not talking about the good school system at Vortex Springs.
No.
They're not talking about the good infrastructure of Vortex Springs or the cool beachy vibes or the cool 50s beach movies that got filmed there.
Shout out
No!
to Vortex.
No! They're talking about the underwater caving death, which sounds like my new metal band that I'm starting.
and that's why we went to PCB and not the watering hole, and we just stayed at the little cabin bunks because they're pretty cheap. And we just drove the way to the beach.
Honestly, the underground caves are a lot safer than what I assume PCB can be on spring break, so
Yeah,
maybe
no,
we
like-
did make the right choice there.
No.
Hell yeah, PCB, baby!
We didn't have a spring break that lined up with the majority of college towns around that area because we went to school out of like state of Florida, but it was close enough to be able to drive to it. So we got lucky in that a lot of the like schools in that area weren't on break, and it was not quiet, but a little bit dead-er. But there was still like
Emphasis
enough going
on the word
on.
dead.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's PCB.
No, this is Vortex. It was in the middle of the woods.
It can be both.
A hole in the dirt full of
Do you
water.
remember driving around looking for like someplace to just get food, like a quick lunch? We thought we could like run to a gas station.
I remember
and,
the
like,
haunted ass cafe that we
Yeah,
drove up on
we-
that had 100 cats around it.
4 places that we went to. The first one we went to was like Pirate Steve's or whatever, 30 minutes away from where we were.
It was very far.
I mean, it closed after breakfast despite advertising lunch.
Yeah.
So it's on Florida old people schedule. That's the wrong start. 2, we go to the haunted cat cafe.
Yep.
It was not advertised as a cat cafe. There were just about 100 cats that were
so
there
many cats.
by happenstance.
Yep.
And me being the dumbass white boy in a horror movie.
Yeah, horror movie victim number 1.
I start to get out of the van and Bo just goes, stop. And he saved my life that day, and that's why I'm still here with you. 3, numero tres, as they say in French. We got out at a gas station because we were
Yes.
getting desperate.
Yes.
And we just see what I refer to as a man who could not have fit the title of Confederate Santa Claus any better than he did. And then 4, we finally settle in for hot dogs at a gas station, not on the rollers.
A different gas station.
A different gas station.
We left that one, found a different one, and went, well, at least it doesn't look as murdery.
And then the clerk warned us about the meth heads in the woods.
Yeah.
Yep. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me right back in. It was a weird day, especially
It was
because
a very weird day.
most of it we spent inside of our friend's van from 1997.
Yep.
And we watched VHS tapes of old Yu-Gi-Oh episodes.
Yeah.
It was a whole like
Was it Yu-Gi-Oh at that time, or was it the frickin' Donkey Kong on replay?
We had already watched Donkey Kong.
We
at that
did
point.
already watch Donkey Kong.
nobody had a proper rewinder.
There was the constant threat that tape was going to go back in the van's VCR
Yes.
player, and to which we all went, no!
I don't want the guilt of having rented, as a 6-year-old, Donkey Kong and the Crystal Coconut about 7 or 8 times separately from Movie Gallery. I don't want to feel the way my parents must have felt. Just like, oh God, he's putting it in the VCR again.
No!
I don't want to know what feeling they had. So, that's a serious threat.
Hot dogs were good, though.
Me with The Lion King 2 as a little kid.
Oh God, not even the dignity of the original Lion King?
I didn't know the first one existed. Fun fact.
How?
Oh, wow.
Because this was Disney VCRs in a
Yep.
time where the vault could only be opened at so many times a year whenever they wanted to be exclusive about things.
Don't miss your chance to own these magical Disney videos before they disappear.
Whenever Walt needed an extra influx of cash.
They put the Lion King in the vault.
They put the Lion King in the vault. And so when my parents, when I was a little kid and they were we were going to Blockbuster to rent movies, the only VHSs, I think I said VCR earlier, lol. The only VHSs we owned were little kids songs or other little kids kind of content, but not specifically Disney movies. Although we did start building a collection when I went, I love these.
Right.
Can we watch more of these? And they went, oh God, what have we done? So what they were able to find at Blockbuster, because this was, 99 at that point, they were able to find Lion King 2, but not the first one. I watched that to death and I loved that. And then finally when my dad was able to get a hold of it, it was out and about again.
Lion King 1.
They rented it and I went, wow, this one's great. But then we returned it. And then I went, I want to watch this again. And we couldn't find an English copy. And I was just so happy to watch it that they went, let's try a Spanish copy, because that's all Blockbuster had. And I was so content to just watch The Lion King on repeat for days on end in Spanish.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful story.
Oh man, like I just need a full Spanish like circle of life right now. Does anybody remember 10th grade Spanish lessons and what that
No.
would be?
I was in French. I don't know what you're talking about.
I took Latin, but
What the fuck? Why?
Dead languages have more fun, baby.
I went to a Christian school in early high school. No, I don't want to talk about it. Moving on. Segue.
Hey, speaking of Disney,
Hey, Disney. We were sitting, talking, brainstorming, thinking about, man, what are we gonna like goon about for an hour today? And we made it an observation. We made an observation that Disney villains aren't like bad guys anymore.
kinda don't exist.
Yeah.
in a weird way.
And if they do, it's like a red herring kind of
Right.
thing.
We're talking about like kind of like the death of the like true evil, chaotic evil, laughing maniacally, rubbing the hands together type villain, specifically when it comes to like Disney and Disney properties. And this is why I'm out of my element. My only like real frame of reference for Disney is like everything made between like 92 and 2003.
Well, you picked a good time to
I
like
did.
pop in there. My question for you is, if you've got one, who's your favorite Disney or Pixar villain?
Ooh.
Villain?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. They're all despicable.
But that's like the point. It's like asking
I
who's your
guess
favorite
so.
heel in wrestling. Like, you would instantly know, like,
Christian.
yeah, exactly. Because he's a sniveling little wiener for the majority of his heel run. But, like, you just want to see him, like, get his dork ass kicked. It's the same exact thing, like, with Disney villains and all that. You make them likable enough, but you make them despicable enough that you're just like, all right, I can't wait to see like Hercules stab you, or I can't wait to see you get thrown off a Pride Rock and all of that.
Mhm.
Like Disney, I called you Disney for some reason. Kaylee,
Disney.
Disney.
She was
what's
Walt the entire time.
Disney, what's your favorite Kaylee villain?
Oh God. I think Scar is one of those that like is consistently in the top for me, and I blame
Yep.
my theater kid side because it's Hamlet, but Hamlet is
Yeah.
pretty freaking solid. So like,
Also, Be Prepared is like a
yeah,
fucking
Be Prepared is
jam.
probably the best Disney villain song. Fight
Song
me.
rules.
No, I love Scar. I do very much enjoy Hades, though, just as a character, is a
Yep.
delightful character and a delightful
It's just
villain.
James Woods being James Woods.
Exactly. And
might
it
steal
works
that one.
so well for that kind of mythological world that they were playing with. Like, I adore it.
I think the reason like we really like them is because they have the space to ham it up, and they have the space to like go and kind of do their own thing and leave their own mark on things. Like James Woods with Hades, you know, he's kind of doing like stand-up comedy the whole time.
Hades,
Mhm.
Lord of the Dead.
I haven't felt this way since I had a piece of masaka caught in my throat or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
or I just love like the ones who can just be nasty and have that whole like ain't I a stinker face going on the entire time, which is why I love guys like Syndrome from The
Ooh.
Incredibles.
Syndrome's a good one. Dr. Facilier.
I was just thinking of
constantly-
him.
I constantly go back and forth because I'm like, we don't see him enough, but when we do get him, he's delightfully evil.
Yeah, it's like you want to have fun while you're watching them. Like it's the same deal with Ursula. It's the same
Yeah.
deal with, oh gosh, this is gonna break my heart for a second. The villain from Coco.
Ernesto de la Cruz.
Ernesto de la Cruz. Yeah, you get to enjoy them like being the baddest for at least part of the time, and
Mhm.
just seeing somebody at their full like worst behavior
Yeah.
is just so engaged. Yzma and Kronk, it's the exact
Ugh.
same thing because it's just Eartha Kitt and Patrick Warburton
The
goofing
problem is
around.
that, like, I stopped considering them villains because it's just Eartha Kitt and Patrick Warburton.
I don't
And
think
that
Kronk is
that
evil.
movie had no script. There was no script turned in before the release of the movie. It's so funny.
He's an antagonist, if not a full-blown villain. Like, he's a good guy with a bad employer.
Like, Yzma is definitely evil. Kronk is just
Yes.
kind of along for the ride.
Yeah.
My spinach puffs.
I never liked your spinach puffs.
Oh yeah, she's going down.
Yeah. I think we like them because they are, like, the good kind of cheesy. Like,
Yes.
throughout most of their history, where it's like, I like watching you, I still want to see you get your ass whooped.
Yeah,
here.
like it's okay. You're trying to kill him, and yeah, he deserves a little bit of what's coming to him because he's an asshat. But like, you're still
Cusco.
trying to kill the kid. Stop that.
Yeah.
If you make your villain like Ric Flair, like, you're going to enjoy the
Really?
payoff at the end of it. 80s wrestling kayfabe Ric Flair, not
Kayfabe Ric Flair.
five-time,
Kayfabe Ric Flair.
not five-time divorcee Ric Flair.
No,
I saw the look in your eyes right there. No.
Only kayfabe Ric Flair, not real life Ric Flair. If you know, you know. If you don't worry about it. Anyway.
Anyway,
Oh.
something that we, as well as many other people have noticed, is that
Yes.
based on the stories that Disney likes to tell nowadays and Pixar likes to tell, there has been an absence of that classic archetype of the Disney villain, and it has just felt like they've been telling different kinds of narratives instead of external conflict for protagonists, or at least a mixture of external and internal. Almost all of the narratives across, like, most of the last 15, 20 years have all been introspective tales.
I mean, I wouldn't say 15-20, but we're starting to get more introspective elements, certainly within the last 15 to 20 years. And the kind of question of, like, how different are we? Aren't we actually more alike than you want to admit? Like, some of those
Right.
questions have kind of cropped up here and there over the last two decades.
Supervillain. Every other villain in a Disney film has the we're the same speech, and
Kind of, yeah.
and
Or
they
at
also
least the,
try to,
like,
make that work.
yeah, or there's a call out of like, oh, but the main character, your hero, your protagonist is also being selfish or also not making like the good moral decision sometimes. Like, you've got those moments of like calling into question the moral goodness of the protagonist, but like there's usually at least been a villain to counter that and go, no, but they're still better than this guy. Like,
But why can't a motherfucker just be a douchebag?
right.
No,
No, but
why can't we just be Kurt? Or is his name Kurt from Tarzan?
His name is, I almost said Lawrence, Clayton.
Yeah, I was like, do you
Clayton.
mean Turk? Because
No,
yes, I
Turk,
hate
yeah.
her, but yes, Clayton.
Damn, what did Turk do
Clayton.
to you? What did Turk do?
She was Rosie O'Donnell, that's
Yeah.
why.
But no, Clayton absolutely is one of those
Yeah.
characters where it's like, no, it's
He's
you're
just a
great
mean dude
force.
with a strong chin and a shotgun.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a nice like, oh, the jungle. You keep saying the jungle is so uncivilized, whereas the jungle actually kind of has more like morality and respect for one another, even though there is
Mhm.
like a circle of life thing, and there is always danger, and yet here you are, the civilized man coming in, being one of the most dangerous things here in an unbridled state.
I just
want
want to shoot a daggone monkey.
Right, monkey.
Monkey.
Let me give you a quick list, real quick,
Yeah.
of the
A quick
Disney-
list, real quick.
Yeah, quick list, real quick.
Quick list,
Quick.
real quick with Gibby.
quick lists done quick. Okay. Ursula, Gaston, Jafar,
Yep.
Scar,
Yep.
Governor Ratcliffe, Claude Frollo, Hades, Clayton, Sean Yu.
Sean Yu's not a character.
He's barely, he's an element of plot.
He's a
Shot-
plot device.
Yeah.
That is across about a spectrum of 10 years or so.
Mhm.
That is 10 years of villainous antagonists that might be fun, in most cases, not you, Shen Yu, but villainous forces that are introduced essentially from the beginning
Yeah.
As you are going to be the antagonist, you are what is going to be overcome.
You're gonna cause me problems, aren't you?
Let's look at the last 10 years or so. And the last 10 years would start with about Frozen.
Ugh, it's been 10 years. Oh, God.
Yeah, it has. Get used to it. Yeah.
Hey,
The passage of time will not wait for you, and it will not wait
That's
for me.
the
The
real
sands will keep
villain
tripping.
is the passage
Hey,
of time.
stop getting introspective here.
Oh, God.
You're sounding like a Disney villain.
No.
Prince Hans,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Robert Callahan,
Yeah. Who,
Assistant Mayor Bellwether,
okay.
Taka, and somebody named Arthur from Ralph Breaks the Internet.
All of these have gone over my head. I don't know who
That
any
is
of these
half
people are.
of the. That is pretty much half right there.
Do we count the Marvel and Disney or Marvel and Star Wars catalog as Disney now? Because then you're throwing
No, but
guys
I will.
in.
I
like,
will count. I'll count Pixar real quick.
Why
as
wouldn't
well.
you also include the Marvel and Disney catalog?
Oh, because it's different.
How?
It's different because Marvel is not Disney. It's
Yeah,
just
it
a
is.
thing that's owned by Disney.
But it's still Disney. It's still a Disney property.
Oh, you can hardly even bring in Marvel villains. They're not good. Like
I think so because I think from my point of view, a big turning point as far as like an audience participation standpoint is in 2013. When did Black Panther come out? 2013, 2015, something
like 2017 or so.
2017
Yeah.
or 18.
Yeah, I think the
but
very
with,
beginning of 2018.
Yeah, but with like Killmonger,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everybody and their grandma was like, he's a bad guy, but he's right though. And that's when I first started to notice that
And
big
he's
change.
hot.
Andy's hot. Shout outs to Michael B. Jordan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael B. Jordan, for being you.
But I think that was the first time I saw somebody. I was like, wait, why can't he just be the dude? Right? Because they also have the antithesis to that, because the first bad guy in that movie is I don't even remember his name. It's the actor for Gollum,
Mm.
right? Who is just, I'm just an evil dude with a fake hand and I'm trying to kill folks. Hard cut to the, I'm just like you, but I'm a little more edgy. It's like, okay, but like why is it this way, right?
What we're like starting to come to is that like for the most part that Disney villain at least does not exist of like the classical state. Even something like if we're going to include the Marvel villains, like there is no just like pure evil, like, or at least fun evil or anything. It has to be relatable. It has to have nuance and
Well, not
and depth and
anymore,
all
because
that.
I think you can go back even in the Marvel, in the Star Wars catalog, you have Emperor Palpatine, who's just
Yeah.
an evil dude, right?
Yeah.
In the Marvel catalog, you have the bad guys from Thor 1 and 2. You have Red Skull before
Mhm.
True,
he comes
true.
back and is supposed to be sympathetic.
And then you have oh my God, I'm blanking on names now too. Jebediah, what's his face, in the first Iron Man, that was immediately meant to be a foil to Tony.
Yes. Yeah.
He was a villain purposefully designed to be like, look
It's
in the
like,
mirror.
this is a bad dude, right?
Yeah. Like, and there's the elements of like you and I are a lot alike, but the difference between the two really stands out in the sort of question of morals versus like what is a protagonist, what is an antagonist.
Whereas if the main bad guy, if they were to remake that Iron Man 1 today, that guy who's a megalomaniac would have like a flashback of being a kid and being dirt poor, or he's like secretly funneling money into his mom to keep her alive or some.
All right, you
nonsense,
know what?
know?
You're starting to open my eyes here in that I figured that it would mostly be across just the Disney Pixar stuff, but like across all of their owned properties, like Star Wars and Marvel included, I can't really think of any villain that sticks around for the entire movie that is the primary villain that is evil the whole time, because motherfucking Kylo Ren has been given so many moments of like sympathy
Right.
and like relatability.
Undeserved, by the way.
Arguably, it's close enough to within the last decade. It was 2010. Tangled. Mother Gothel.
Mhm.
Mother Gothel,
Yes.
I think, is the only one within the last over 10 years that
I
I
would
think really...
Also say First Wreck-It Ralph, King Candy. He's one of our earlier
Okay.
twist villains. And so we don't have that antagonist like, oh, this is our big bad that we're going to see at the end. But he is present and makes himself a nuisance for most of that movie.
I don't think twist villains count as
Yeah,
traditional Disney
I agree.
villains.
Because you're subverting, like, you're already hiding information
Yeah.
from us
Yeah.
in a way.
I do not count twist villains. I
Mhm.
do not count redeemed villains because
Sure.
of those that I mentioned. Hans, twist villain.
Yeah.
Robert Callahan from Big Hero 6, redeemed villain, relatable.
Yeah.
Mayor Bellwether, twist.
Yep.
Taka from Moana, twist/redeemed.
Redeemed. Yeah, both.
Mhm.
2 in 1, but it works. It's nice. It's a good story.
De La Cruz in Coco.
Twist.
Twist.
Mhm.
Incredibles 2, tired lesbian aunt, twist. I don't remember her actual name.
Everybody's angry about that one. I've never seen both of you so dejected by the idea of a character.
The Incredibles 2 is an entirely separate conversation in which I can go on and on about why and how it disappointed me.
The last 4 Pixar movies
Mhm.
do not have villains. Onward, Soul, Luca, Turning Red. Like, they do not have... Okay, like, symptoms of having a period is probably the villain of Turning Red,
No,
because
that's-
that shit's fucking evil.
Yeah, puberty and maturity is the antagonist in some way, yeah. And, general idea of emotional/generational trauma.
Right.
Yeah, all right. You know what, Disney? I'll give you this. Soul having, like, the general state of arrogance of a white woman in Soul is also the villain.
Damn.
Look, that movie purported that it was better off for a sarcastic, like, scared white lady to get the
Damn.
chance to live than a black guy that's already living. So maybe fuck that movie a little.
You were wrong. I'm just saying, damn, bro.
Yeah. But regardless, across all of these properties that we just mentioned, it does not exist. And
Yeah.
my question is, does it need to anymore?
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Anymore being
Yeah.
a good point, because is this just how storytelling has evolved? What do y'all think?
I kind of sit in the fence because I really love exploration in storytelling
Mhm.
and storytelling styles and how we can play with the traditional hero's journey and how do we fuck with that and make it more relevant for the modern day. I love that. Like, Meet the Robinsons was one of the first examples that I saw and that really stuck with me of, we have a villain, but this is a redeemed villain as well as a slight twist villain. And it
Yeah.
works for that plot so well. And
Underrated movie. Meet the
you
Robinsons
feel
is
so much for those characters through like that recognition of who they are. And it works so well for the purposes of that movie. I still can enjoy a twist villain, but sometimes once they start getting into a pattern of, and this is just how we introduce like where our villain comes in. It's that, no, stop that. Same thing with this idea of there's no direct antagonist. There's just an overarching problem
Theme.
societally, family, familially.
Yeah.
Like I really liked getting Encanto and Turning Red back to back almost from like 2 very different cultures, 2 very different styles. Kind of talking around the same issue of
Right.
like, how do families heal when times change and we have
Right.
to allow ourselves to move on with time changing?
The villain is family dynamics.
Again, it's this like, if we live in this camp now and everything becomes about this, your message is going to become less genuine over time in that regard. Like, when everything in this time period is now following that same style, to me that loses like story credibility.
Yeah.
For me. But I one thing that stuck out immediately to me, like kind of reflecting on this list of like iconic Disney villains, and I've seen a lot of discussion about this recently in subgroups on TikTok and pockets of YouTube is a lot of your like iconic Disney villains were heavily queer coded.
What?
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
Ursula, who was based on Divine, one of the first early famous drag queens who was in John Waters movies, was queer coded?
Right. No, yeah, like you look at Scar's sachet and smaller stature compared to Mufasa.
Oh, I shall practice my curtsy.
Yeah, like you look at the men like so handsome and groomed like Gaston and Clayton, like still muscular but still very coiffed and groomed, how they present themselves overly masculine. Well, oh gosh, I'm forgetting now a couple others too. Like but again,
Scar.
Yeah, but
She said Scar.
We said Scar. Jafar.
Shere Khan. Shere Khan is what I meant.
Shere Khan.
I got my cats mixed up.
Yeah, no, like we had this slew of villainous characters from the late 70s through the 90s that were great villains. Like we love them as villains, but there is a slight problem in that like these are queer coded characters. Sure, there is nothing confirmed about them in that nature, like other than just they're villains and that's what they're here to do.
Mhm.
However, there's the distinct connotation and like problem of queer coding villainous characters perpetuating queer phobia and like a continued suspicion of like gay men or like the sort of stigma and style of those characters.
I would ask in that assertion, is that a symptom or a cause, right? Because I think that we've retroactively noticed, hey, this is a weird thing that all of these guys have in common, but we're also ignoring, hey, it's the same like 20 people writing all these movies. So maybe this is just what a villain looks like. I'm not excusing it.
No,
by any
it's
means,
that like
right?
there's the idea like that some of these actions and the like leaps in logic that they make, like that could be what a villain acts like. But then there is the question of, but where else are we getting queer representation in media? And I think actually one of the key artists that handled a lot of those villains over time, I believe he passed away recently, but he was a queer man. He was a gay man. I believe, sort of kind of like putting like a community that was looking for representation, like trying to find a way to put it in there in the only way a studio would allow it at the time. Not like they're still really allowing it.
The Foo is gay. Okay.
Great. We could have told you that in the 90s.
Some of my favorite drag queens have mentioned that like they enjoy villains more because like it's completely unreserved people.
Exactly.
Like the flamboyance of such, the like eccentricities. Like my favorite drag queens love the Mortal Kombat villains because they are just so fierce. They are just so like wicked about things, and they're not afraid to hold back at any point here.
Right. Like on the one hand, there's an icon there. There's a style icon. There is like that attitude sort of idea that we take away from those characters, and especially like in queer communities, people love a good villain.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's that double-edged sword of this is great. However, people that like read this as one way further use that as fuel to be hateful and fearful of LGBTQ plus community members. But
again, I have a hard time attributing intentionality to those kind of to that kind of characters. Like I don't want in any way say I'm denying what you're saying, because what y'all are saying is 100% true, right? Jafar's eyes be fucking popping. My man's got some good ass liner.
He does.
At the same time, I don't think that necessarily is an issue unique to Disney.
No.
Which is why I have a hard time thinking that it's just something they did on purpose, whether it was the queer community inserting themselves into these timeless properties, or we see all gay people as bad, right? I think it's a little more of that one, but I don't think the intention's there. Another franchise that also kind of has that the bad guys are weirdly queer coded when you run back and look at it is The Legend of Zelda.
Yep.
The Legend of Zelda has a lot of foppish wizard men in bright purple robes wearing like really thick makeup. There's there's the one of the main bad guys from Skyward Sword. There's the main bad guy from Link Between Worlds. There's Vati, the wizard from Four Swords. And it's like, man, it's weird that all these guys are super foppish and they're all like in deep makeup. I don't think y'all are saying what you mean to say here.
Oh God, it's a twink with an asymmetrical haircut. He's got to be the villain.
Well, I sure hope this doesn't awaken anything.
But right.
Meanwhile, Ganondorf is on like Hyrule Grinder looking mask for mask.
Ganon is definitely on Grinder, and he definitely ghosts people after he's done with them.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
But my
Good
point
Lord.
being, I don't know how much intentionality we can attribute to that. And I don't know if saying that, oh, well, we don't want to make our characters queer coded anymore. If we don't make our characters queer anymore, directly correlates to then they all have to be relatable, right? That seems like weirdly vindictive in a way that I don't think a mega corporation would have the time to be. You know
There's,
what I mean?
there's some argument to the like, if we take away that focal point, then we don't have to address the issue. But then, yeah, what do we fill the space with?
Yeah, no, that's a good point as well.
Because like that's the thing. We've been reading like the idea of like queer reading media has been around for a while, but it has not been popularized until recently. So
Queer theory.
certainly, yeah, gotta love some good queer theory. In recent years, there's been that push to like, hey, let's kind of like analyze the media we're trying to produce as we're writing it, sort of thing. And how does that look? And then how does that make us look? Do we want to deal with that? Because like there's ways that still work in like queer and feminist theory that still, I think, create a strong villain.
Yeah.
There's just such a bigger world. And I think this was in the 2010s when we really wanted to like Wicked. I blame Wicked for so much.
Kaylie, get out of my head. Get out of my head.
Get it. Fucking put Wicked over the coals.
I love Wicked, but I blame it for so much of
Wicked
the
sucks.
like movement and trajectory in cinema storytelling, animation storytelling, where it's that every property has to redeem a villain now.
And yeah, and think about it. Disney has remade Wicked. Disney has copied and remade Wicked at least 3 times now.
Fucking
Yeah.
Maleficent.
Maleficent 2, Cruella.
I really liked the first Maleficent. I don't think the second one needed to exist, but I liked the first one well enough.
Yeah.
Because it was weird, but I thought they were trying to tell a fun, different story.
Yeah, but especially as we enter this era of Disney reappropriating its properties for nostalgia finance,
Fucking
we
Dumbo.
see it happen all the time over and over again. Oh, Cruella de Vil wasn't just a terrible lady who wanted to kill dogs. She was actually this, right?
Her mom was killed by dogs.
Yeah, no, like the meme, everybody was joking. So like, oh, it's gonna be like her parents were killed by dogs or something,
and then her parents were killed by dogs. It's like, dude, really?
to the point where I'm like, this is so ridiculous. Why did this make it through the cutting room? Why?
You know what? That's pretty camp, and I kind of like it.
It's
right.
stupid.
So then there's a level of like, okay, your traditional villains are campy. Do we
Yeah.
keep that? I don't know.
I don't know.
I respect no one who's like, hey, yo, my mom and dad got mauled by a group of Dalmatians, so now I gotta kill
Sounds
them.
like your
Dalmatians.
bloodline was weak, and it isn't gonna survive the
Facts.
winter there,
You got
Charlie.
weak genes, Mr. Vil. Get out of the
Oh,
evolutionary
man.
chain.
Like some Levi's made out of sugar, your genes are weak.
Weak!
Got him.
And I mean, there's the idea that and I agree, certainly to me, none of the live action movies have ever really hit, like, let alone at a good, like, successful standard, but none of them have especially even come close to, like, the way that the original animated works have ever hit. Like, that's not happened for me for any of these. But I like the approach in storytelling, and as we've become more globalized, that like recognizing different backgrounds and different perspectives is a necessary tool to understand like what someone else might be feeling when they also look at the same piece of media.
Unless you're black.
Or just the understanding that, like, there are people that look like they don't have good intentions towards you, but they're trying in their own way, sort of thing. Or, like, you're looking for a villain when there isn't one.
Yeah.
And that's just sometimes how it is.
Yeah.
I was very surprised when Inside Out came out. The way that movie unfolded and the way that it ended up arriving to its, like, no, there's not a singular antagonist. The challenge here is letting go and coming to terms with something that cannot be mended in the same way. Like, I thought it was a beautiful way to handle that kind of a story.
Pixar's villains have been childhood depression, losing a parent to unstoppable illness. I don't know. I'm going to assume that Luca is about the racism of Italians.
It's about
No, I'm
really
kidding.
wanting a Vespa.
It's mostly about really wanting a Vespa and also fish people racism.
Like, their villains have become, for the most part, like, intangible things that have effects on our real life, like, which is fine for the story they want to tell. And a lot of these stories are really good. I'm not saying you can't make good stuff without it.
These are no longer purely sticking by the book of the hero's journey. Sorry, we're breaking your predictable cycle.
But I like my predictable cycle.
That's the thing. It's interesting. It's cool. Like, it's different. Like, I like, at the very least, conceptually, so much stuff that they do. It's just that, like, I want it. I like my Disney villains.
No.
It's not like an impossible feat. It's not easy, but it's not impossible to have somebody that's interesting and, like, at least a little bit fun or, like, compelling as a primary antagonist throughout an entire narrative.
Right. But I guess the question is it more interesting, or I'm always going to be in, well, at the end of the day, they're cranking this junk out to make profit, right? Is it more interesting or more compelling to create a narrative centered around a primary antagonist who we love to hate? Or is it more compelling to make a narrative that makes the viewer slightly introspective, that gives the viewer, like, tries to open the mind of the viewer to a certain degree?
Well, the thing is, they used to do both.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yes.
I don't know what Aladdin was trying to open me up to.
Oh, okay. All right. Here's what I got for you then, Buckaroo.
Yeah.
Don't dunk on poor folks. I was the poor folk.
Well, okay, sure. But, like, yes, the true villain of Agrabah is the Sultan and his selfish. No.
I mean,
what I'm saying is, from, like, Little Mermaid through the tail end of the Disney Renaissance, as it's known, like, your Mulans, your Hunchbacks, your Hercules, and all that, the primary character, the protagonist, has the drive of not, like, this is my destiny to go kill the Black Cauldron or whatever that movie's about. Never seen it. Look, I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring. Like, I assume you kill pots in that game too. They each have a song. Every one of them has a song about who am I and where do I belong.
Yeah.
And they also have what's referred to as a classic Disney villain.
Yeah.
Moana, which is probably the best thing Disney's animated studios have come out with within the last 10 years, or so people overall agree, is the exact same thing of who am I, where do I belong, but there's no primary antagonist. Like, it is her journey alone right there. There's no, like, villain that's developed outside of a shiny crab for about 5 minutes or something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's Jermaine Clements, so what? It's going to be great. But, like, they just don't do it, and I think they could do both, and I wish just once they would do it again, but they just haven't, and I do miss it because it was fun.
Yeah.
Like, you can have all these amazing things, and believe me, I love them. Like, Inside Out's my favorite thing that like, bajillion-dollar company's ever made before. Like, I thought there were a lot of really cool ideas in Soul, even if the execution wasn't there. And I loved Onward. I thought it was a great story. But, like, I keep feeling like I'm missing something, which I sometimes kind of get from Marvel movies once in a while before it just goes, well, actually, here's why you should feel bad for purple Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
Like, the only time within, I'd say, the last 5-ish years or so that I was watching a Disney property that I was just like, yeah, there's somebody evil on screen while also the protagonist is having their own introspection. And I just went, yeah, was when I was watching The Mandalorian. And motherfucking Gus Fring from Breaking Bad walks on. Giancarlo, the baddest actor in Hollywood, walks in with like a black cape and like pure black and red armor, and he's flying around in a TIE fighter trying to shoot the Mando while also just being like, oh, hello, Mando. I used to run a chicken chain in New Mexico, but they never knew I was evil. And then he pulls out a fucking darksaber. Not a lightsaber. He pulls out a darksaber. And I was just like, this is what I've been waiting for. This is amazing, but also you're terrifying. And finally, I have you. You've returned to me. And you didn't even have to be queer coded. So nobody's going to be hurt by this. In
Sure,
any way.
yeah.
It's just good. It's just good.
I'm trying to think of the last one that I've seen that's like really hit me in that way, mostly because I like just watched Turning Red a couple days ago, so I'm still very much in that world. And that was a story that I was like, this 100% can relate, probably could relate, even if I did not grow up as a young teenage girl. Shame on anyone who thinks otherwise. People that are like, I couldn't empathize with this. I couldn't relate to this. What's a period? Ew, disgusting.
Are people saying whatever?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. It's old white men who are just like, we shouldn't subject our 12-year-olds to periods. Meanwhile, like, their own daughters are starting to get symptoms of that at age 8, 9, 10, 12.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just like, just because you're scared of it doesn't mean we can't approach it. Ooh, the female body isn't
Scary.
all perfect and meant for you. Ooh.
No, and I really adore like what that and what Turning Red and what Encanto do with actually having a conversation about what generational trauma does without really being so overt and like hit you in the back of the head with a shovel over and over again. Like both stories open up those conversations in very natural ways of kind of looking at over time, this is what we had to do to protect ourselves. And now, well, maybe this is how we can be doing things differently so that we can continue to live in as best of a harmony with one another as a family as we can.
It also gave us a new big lady, and I think
it did give. Encanto gave us Big Lady Luisa, and I love her so much. Oldest child problems. I didn't cry listening to Surface Pressure. What are you talking about? No, it's fine. For me, I think it's something about this idea of scope of worldview and scale of storytelling, where not only do we have people on the internet that just do this for fun and because they like critical theory, and they like applying theory to works of fiction and media and story narratives.
Yeah.
But like, you also just have people becoming more aware of how a character or a story arc reads, and especially because those Tumblr theory summary posts travel the internet so fast once a movie drops.
Yeah.
That is accurate. Like, work as hard as the Tumblr theorists work.
Seriously. Like, when Endgame or Infinity War first dropped, it was that question of like, oh, finally, new big bad. Like, finally, he's here. Big man.
And then he just became a mascot for frat guys in economics classes going, but what if he's right?
No, but that's the thing. And it starts as a joke sometimes, but then there is a level of like validity to the argument in some of these cases. Like, to make a good villain, this is just base like story creating and actor like function when you have to play a villain. to make a good villain, they have to be grounded. There is a reason that they are doing the things that they are doing. Ergo, if that reason is clear and distinct enough, you are likely to have people that understand why you are taking the actions you are taking. If it's a good villain, well-written villain, as much as your protagonist. Like, if they're a well-written protagonist, there's not going to be major question of like, well, why did you do that, stupid? Like, we just needed to write this character dumber so that this thing could happen. So, when villains become that, like, well-established, it suddenly creates more problems when then you have people watching that content going, I get to pick who I want to agree or disagree with.
I wouldn't be Thanos, right?
Right. Thanos was right, 2019. Like,
it's just that, like, I think we can do it the way we used to because we've seen other people do it and still work. Like, the idea that popped into my head was, like, Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker in The Dark Knight.
Sure.
In that you don't know exactly what's going on. You have no true backstory. You have no concrete knowledge, and that's what makes something like that scary, because you don't know the depths to which he will go for his mission that he is basically kept within himself. The same goes, I think, for another Disney villain in Minister Frollo. Like, I find him to be such a compelling villain because he's the most realistic one to me.
He got too horny and he was like, she has to die.
Yes.
when you're not allowed to go to horny jail, this is what happens.
Bonk!
A man in a position of, like, power and privilege being corrupted by the power that has been presented to him, slowly going mad that he doesn't have control over everything.
Yeah, doesn't know how to control this feeling. Also, Hellfire is a fucking jam.
Yes, it's the best one. We don't get any villain songs anymore.
See, that's the thing, though. I think Be Prepared is the best villain song. I think Hellfire is a better song, though. Like, it is just... And that's the thing. Hellfire is not a villain song. Hellfire is an I want song. It's just flipped.
Which is so good.
Right.
Because it comes right after Heaven's Light.
Yes. I love, like, again, I love a good singular villain. I love when we can have a story that decides to, like, put a direct clash sort of idea as its end goal. Oh no, I forgot where I was going with this thought.
You'll get back there, I'm sure,
yeah.
But let me ask you a question real quick. I have not watched Encanto yet. I would like to, because I've heard it's very good.
It is very good.
I want to know, there is a character named Bruno that we do not talk about.
Yes.
When I first saw pictures of him, he looked like a traditional Disney villain of, like, thin mustache, bad posture, like skulking around with, like, black and green all around him.
He's got his rats.
Is he not a villain?
He's not a villain.
Motherfuck, we were so close. We had the aesthetic.
Part of what I was like, oh, okay, so we do, like, we have this character, and we have this, like, and he just up and disappeared. Motherfucker could see the future, and he would have prophecies, and then he just disappeared.
We were this close to greatness.
And he lives in the walls with the rats. But, like, I won't say more than that, but it's that, like, oh, is this where this is going? And it throws you for a lot of fun loops.
Right.
Honestly, like, not paying rent, like, just living with a bunch of rat friends right there.
That's the dream.
Like seeing the future and shit. My man.
Give my man Remy make a nice stew.
Oh, that was something I was going to mention earlier. Pixar did start playing with that way back with Ratatouille, because we have Ego built up to be this, like, big bad of the culinary world. But then we do get a very beautiful, like, flashback of the taste of this food.
Part.
It is.
It's the best part of the best Pixar movie, and I will not take away my statement.
Everything else is a cheap imitation when it wants to save a villain in the last half of the movie.
I love Inside Out more. It's more personal to me, but
Mhm.
I truly think that Ratatouille is the best Pixar
I
movie.
personally think the best Pixar moment was when my man Tom Mater drove backwards at one time.
Well, Bo, you can just get her done in Cars 14. Mater's got to get a little bit of surgery under the hood. That's the main plot of the movie. And the main villain is plaque cirrhosis of the liver.
Anyway.
Well, Mater, it's so great that your new job gave you health care, Mater. They don't cover all my premiums,
I did
Lightning.
not think I was going to make Gibby pop off like this. I apologize.
No, the Larry the Cable Guy needs some work. Your Owen Wilson's pretty spot on.
Thank you. Oh man, I'm not good at impersonating people. I'm impersonating people impersonating people.
You mean impressions?
Yeah, but like there's another
We're
layer.
taking Owen Whistle's whole identity.
Identity fraud is not a
It's
joke,
called
Jim.
method acting, and you'll never understand the Gibby method.
Oh,
Fuck you,
dear.
Meisner. Fuck you, Uta Hagen. It's my school now.
Oh no. I don't know if any of us will ever understand the Gibby method.
I don't even try.
And you never will.
Last thoughts.
I'm the new Disney villain.
Again, I would love to see what we can do if there's going to be a movie in the near future that has a singular villain, especially after such good reception from movies like Encanto from Turning Red, like Inside Out being one of the OGs in that way. I would love to see if they ever want to come back to that formula, but to me, it's that feeling of like, suddenly we've gone, like, the lives and the ability to relate to a story we're being told now suddenly exists under like every like generation is larger and larger circumstances. Like it's no longer me and my personal challenges and I need to be the hero of my story. But then it was in the 2010s where it's that like, no, there's something bigger above us. And it's like, it's corporate nonsense. It's corporate, it's political like bodies that are not doing the justice that they have gone to like set out to do. It's not Disney. Well, technically now it is, I think.
It's pretty close to Disney.
But well, no. I was going to say robots. Robots does such a great job of setting up this like, here's going to be our savior, and it's not. And there's this like beautiful, nice, like the enemy is not just the singular like CEO robot, but the idea of corporatization and upgrading as a concept.
Isn't that kind of ironic coming from a mega company, though? Like, I think
Right.
Roblox is DreamWorks or something.
Yes. Oh, no,
Yeah.
was it? Oh, right. No, I was thinking it was Fox Animation.
It might be Fox Animation. I could be
can't
wrong.
remember my studios.
I don't care.
Blue
enough.
Sky, who knows?
That, and then you had things like Atlantis in the early 2000s where it's that like, yes, there's still one singular big bad, but like, it's not just kind of Clayton's big badness where it's like, I'm here to like ruin things for you. Whereas it is, no, we're going to sell this to the Kaiser and get rich.
Right.
Like there is corporate gain to be had in this.
And all the guys in Atlantis are quote unquote the big bad until the
Right.
very
No,
end when
everybody
it's just the
except
two.
Milo comes in going, we're going to sell off this artifact and get rich
Right.
from it. And we don't care what the rest of the world, like there is a world outside that we very see that just got done with World War I.
Right.
And we're going to sell this like Atlantean war technology to the Kaiser and we don't care. We're going to get rich.
And then Milo's like, guys, I got a girlfriend.
Right.
Also indigenous people. Please don't mess them up.
please leave them alone.
And my girlfriend.
Honestly, king shit from Atlantis. Good movie.
It's a
But
great-
like
great film.
we go from like the individual struggles of like me and my problems, like like Cinderella versus the evil stepmother, to then like bigger and bigger things. And now we are finally at this place of like, what else is left? Like it's beyond corporation. It's beyond political structure.
Yeah.
It's something almost intangible. How do we deal with that in storytelling when so many people relate to this? How do we express that in
And
storytelling?
how do we not make it God? Because They will get
Right.
very angry at us if we do that.
Someone will be very upset with us.
If Hunchback of Notre Dame came out today,
Oh my god.
every single member of the GOP would just be like, disability rights, we can't have that. You made the church the villain? When has that ever been true in history? Ever.
Yeah, that's sort of my thoughts, is this like we've almost become too big in our scope of storytelling that it's hard to figure out, can we go back? I would like to see us go back to that, because like video games are one of those places where we're still able to do that very nicely, where you always have a direct like mano-a-mano kind of conflict. Not always, but I think it's one of the still more prominent spaces of like still good storytelling with those traditional plot devices.
I'm kind of going to counter what you just said. I think it's just kind of how storytelling is from now, or will be for the next, like, however long. I think the phrase, this generation's blah, blah, blah is overused because we just say that stuff to make things sound exponential. To go into the video game space, Pokemon has gone from the comic book mafia parody to the last 2 generations of Pokemon. They've done the twist villain where the team isn't actually the team. They're just misunderstood. The main bad guy is this corporate overlord, which is like, that's weird, billion-dollar company, Pokemon company. Okay. You also see other games like Cyberpunk 2077, which is anti-capitalist, and I can whine about that company as well. We have games like God of War 2019, where there is a primary protagonist in Baldur, but if you know the legend of Baldur in Norse mythology, you know he's not a dick of his own creation. He's not his own fault. It's not his fault. He's that way, and the game does that. There's Red Dead Redemption, where we don't necessarily have the comic book villain like we do in the original Red Dead Redemption games the first time, but we instead see the villain become that in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Have some goddamn faith, Arthur.
Right, and it's still supposed to be they still kind of make that main villain Dutch, slightly sympathetic. We see a man trying his best, going slowly mad and more mad, right? We see it in like in TV as well. Every other TV series has to be, and here's the season about the bad guy. Or even more, we have TV series like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, where the main characters are the bad guys. Right, Madmen is in that category as well.
I will say, like something like Witcher, where we get everybody's origin at the same time, is an interesting look to kind of counter that. Like, stop giving the villain special treatment. Well, we need to give them just as much treatment as we give the protagonist. Fine, then do it at the same time.
Yeah, and even in Witcher, the Witcher 3, the one I'm most familiar with, the main antagonist is a fucking dick, but he's doing it because he's trying to save his people, and it's like, all right, fine, whatever. He could just be like a scary Polish punk rock dude. Like, I just want to kill the ice elf, please. Yeah. You know.
Everyone in The Witcher is a tsundere.
Yeah. Anyway. I think we have just, as you were saying earlier, Kaylie, I think we're just more aware of how storytelling is and how storytelling goes just as a populace. And I kind of just think that this is how stories are going to be for a while. At some point there'll be another change. The next big thing we'll do goddamn gangbusters, and then we'll start telling stories a different way, right?
I just want more sassy Darth Vader like we got in Rogue One.
Hear, hear.
Menacing, but also like making puns while choking a dude. Like, give me just a little bit more of that. Like, give me Darth Vader's tight 5 on the Death Star at like Death Jam comedy night. Damn. Like, just give me that.
I want either exactly like absolutely ridiculous on one end of the extreme, or on the other, like if we're looking for a singular villain, it's either that, or on the other end of the emotional extremes for me, it's like a Ramses versus a Moses, where it's got to be this, I will fight you, but I really don't want to, and I am so sorry, but stop.
Yeah.
I just want fun. Just look, if we're afraid of queer coding, give me a Pixar movie that is written by drag queens, and let's fund it and just go for it. Because they'll make it fun, damn it.
I was going to say, giving groups demanding that kind of their own representation in media, the power to write their own representation in media and their own heroes and villains. Wow, what a concept,
No,
Disney.
I think I'm just going to do everything, and you'll thank me for it. So yes, the waspiest motherfucker in the room. You're welcome, everybody else.
Cool, man. That has been this episode of the Liberal Artist Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this weird journey. Join us next time as Kaylie becomes the quintessential Disney villain.
Frankly, it's about time. And I'm ready to be your himbo sidekick.
You get to be a Iago.
Coming soon this Halloween, we finally do Yzma and Kronk cosplay.
Peace.
The Liberal Artists Podcast premieres every other Thursday on your favorite podcasting platform. The show is hosted by Bodio, Kaylie Horowitz, and Andy Gibson. You can find the show at LibArtistsPod on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks to White Hot for performing the theme song Reflect, which can be found on freebeats.io. Now, I'm off to go exploring, and maybe, just maybe, I'll find a sheep that I can call my own. Good day.
It's a good thing you didn't give me enough time for my Gilbert Gottfried impression.
Yep, hate that. Yeah, hard cut that.